Sometimes the future doesn't just arrive, it kicks the door right off its hinges. Well, we're about to talk about one of those days. A single 24-hour period where the whole abstract idea of AI just bam, it snapped into focus and became this concrete, world-shaping thing. The date you need to remember is September 25th, 2025. Now, on the surface, it just looked like a bunch of random headlines, right? Some big investments, a few product launches, a policy announcement here and there. But when you start to connect the dots, you see it. You see the blueprint for our new reality being laid out right in front of us. So that's the big question, isn't it? Why this day? What exactly happened on September 25th that managed to capture the sheer power, the competing strategies, and the fundamental shift that AI is bringing to our world? Okay, let's break it all down. First things first, it all starts with a new foundation of global power. And I'm not talking about oil fields or aircraft carriers anymore. The single most critical strategic asset of the century is raw computational power. And on this day, we got a crystal clear look at the new geopolitics being built right on top of it. The first shockwave was just the mind-boggling amount of money being thrown around. A group made up of OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank announced they were hitting the accelerator on their Stargate supercomputer project. And the price tag? It was rocketing past $400 billion. Let that sink in. This isn't just about building more data centers. This is about building the literal infrastructure for intelligence itself. And to power this thing, the project is planned to pull in nearly 7 gigawatts of energy. To give you some perspective, that's enough juice to power several million homes. It is a ridiculously huge undertaking, and it sends a clear signal. The race for AI dominance is going to require an absolutely unprecedented amount of cash and energy. So who's providing the engines for this whole race? Well, that would be NVIDIA. On the very same day, they announced a huge strategic partnership with OpenAI, which included an investment of up to $100 billion to roll out their next-gen chips. This move pretty much locks in NVIDIA, not just as a supplier, but as a kingmaker in this whole ecosystem. As OpenAI CEO Sam Altman said, everything starts with compute. But here's the thing. These massive checks aren't just market forces doing the thing. Nope. They're part of a very deliberate national strategy, and it has a name. Compute sovereignty. The Stargate project itself was first announced at the White House. The goal is for a country to own and control its own AI infrastructure, just like it would its oil reserves, to make sure it never has to depend on anyone else for this critical technology. And this national strategy became blindingly obvious with a landmark deal between the U.S. government and Elon Musk's xAI. For the grand total of 42 cents, every single federal agency got access to xAI's powerful Grok models. This was not a normal government contract. It was a clear, strategic move to anoint a national champion and basically supercharge AI adoption across the entire U.S. government. So, what does this all add up to? You're seeing a brand new power structure take shape. This crazy concentration of money, hardware, and government support means that a tiny handful of companies now control the absolute bedrock of the AI value chain. They are the new compute barons, and believe me, their decisions are going to shape the future of AI for all of us. Okay, so what's all this insane compute power actually for? It's not just about making the tools we already have a little bit faster. It's about creating a totally new kind of technology. And that brings us to this second huge story of September 25th, what's being called the agentic shift, the moment AI stopped being a passive tool and started becoming a proactive partner. Think about it. For the longest time, our relationship with AI has been a simple loop. You give it a prompt, it gives you a response. End of story. But this agentic shift completely shatters that model. We're moving from prompt and response to a goal and execute reality. You don't just give the AI a task anymore. You give it an objective, and it goes off and works on its own to figure out how to get it done. And on September 25th, this wasn't some futuristic idea. It was everywhere. OpenAI launched a proactive personal assistant. At the same time, companies like Appiar were launching autonomous AI agents for businesses. This change was happening across consumer software, creative tools, even physical hardware. This was a market-wide pivot happening all at once. Let's just zoom in on the biggest launch of the day, OpenAI's ChatGPT Pulse. This thing completely changes ChatGPT from something you talk to into something that works for you in the background. It literally does asynchronous research while you sleep, connecting to your calendar and email to cook up personalized briefings for your day. Of course, this incredible convenience comes with a pretty big trade-off. It's only as good as the amount of personal data you're willing to feed it. Okay, this brings us to our third and final theme for the day. You'd think that as AI gets more and more powerful, it would all start to converge into one single thing. But actually, it's splitting apart. On September 25th, we saw two huge fractures appear that are going to define the future of this technology. So first, you've got a technological split. On one side, you have companies like Meta building these gigantic open-source world models that live in the cloud, designed for really deep, generalized thinking. And on the other side, you've got companies creating tiny, super efficient edge models, or nanos, that are designed to run specific tasks right on your phone or your laptop. The future isn't one or the other. It's a mix, where these two kinds of models are constantly working together. The second split is maybe even more important. It's all about governance. On the very same day the US was going all in on its competitive nationalistic strategy, boosting its own companies and using export controls to slow down rivals, the United Nations was getting all 193 member states together to try and build a collaborative, rights-based global rulebook. These are two completely opposite philosophies on how to manage AI's future, and it's creating this huge geopolitical fracture in the digital world. All right, let's pull all these threads together. We've got the race for compute, we've got the agentic shift, we've got these strategic splits. When you lay it all out, you can see three powerful meta trends that really came into sharp focus on that one day. Here's how it all connects. It's like a chain reaction. First, you get this massive concentration of power in the hands of those compute barons. That creates the perfect conditions for the second trend, strategic divergence, where nations and companies all start racing off in different directions. And all that competition is fueling the final trend, a fundamental transformation, where this tech finally breaks out of the screen to reshape our actual physical world. And this transformation is already solving massive real-world problems. We're seeing AI platforms that speed up the development of cancer therapies. We're seeing a digital twin of the entire planet being built to predict climate change. And we're seeing intelligence being embedded directly into the hardware that powers our everyday lives. I mean, this is not science fiction anymore. This is happening right now. And that leaves us with the ultimate question that the events of September 25th, 2025 really force us to ask. See, this isn't just about a technology revolution, it's a revolution in power. As a tiny handful of companies get unprecedented control over the very infrastructure of intelligence, the real challenge for all of us is to figure out how this incredible new power can be governed safely, effectively, and most importantly, democratically. The future might have crystallized on that day, but how we shape it, well, that's still up to us.